Let's recap where we're at. So we're discussing, we're going to conclude today, but the midrash says that Hashem created the world, he saw that it was tov ma'od, and the midrash says tov was the yetzer tov, good was your drive for goodness, but ma'od, what makes it exceptionally good, what makes it great, the midrash says your yetzer hara, your drive for physical things, for bad things in this world, things which are non-spiritual. And the midrash asks, can the yetzer hara be very good? The midrash says, yes, definitely. And it goes on to explain how the role of the yetzer hara in creating an exceptional servant of God. And really that's what we've explored together, and how a person's pure motivations to serve Hashem take you only so far, only last so long, create only a limited level of commitment, consistency, but it's actually pairing it with our yetzer hara for whatever it is that we're interested in this world. Money, honor, competitiveness, that actually takes that goodness and makes it great. The one exception to that, the Vilna Gaon says, is that a person's never allowed to combine tivers, lusts, with his good motivations to drive him into service of Hashem. Lusts are, they're not on the table as a means for driving motivation for a Jewish person. And much of the Torah, much of the mitzvahs that are there are placed to keep those lusts for food, for drink, for women in their correct place in our lives, so that they don't become the central driver of our activity, but they're a sideshow. And we've been exploring together, how does a person who has lusts as the center of their world successfully move them to the side? That's really been the journey. And in the course of preparing and studying, last week I nearly fell off my chair when I found this Vilna Gaon. It's just unbelievable. And I want to share it with you today. Just summarize where we're at over the last 2 weeks in this topic. We started with the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah says, Yafet Talmud Torah im derech eretz. How beautiful is learning of Torah together with derech eretz, with a livelihood, with earning with a job. Because the exhausting yourself in both of these activities causes sin to be dissipated from a person. The Bein Yonah said that the Mishnah, when it says Mishkachas Avon, that Avon goes away from a person, it means the yetzer hara. It's not that you stop sinning, but the drive to sin gets taken away, and that was really the opening for us. He's talking about that yetzer hara, these yetzer haras of lusts, of food, of drink, of woman. Those go away when a person's consumed in endeavors of learning and of earning a livelihood. The Vilna Gaon last week shared with us that there's the two different drives inside of a person. There's taiva, again, there's these lusts, and then you have something called chemda, which for now we'll leave it in the category of desire for money. They're totally different things. So the Vilna Gaon says that there's two types of drives, not only two, but there's two. The possibly we dealt with last week was dealing with two different types of drives in a person: a drive for lust, for taivas, and for chemdas. And the Vilna Gaon says that a person who is driven by lusts, the yetzer, the drive for chemda will never speak to that person. And this was the way explained was as follows: a person who's lustful, who wants food, drink, woman, their philosophy in life, their hashkafa in life is they want to live life up. They want to enjoy the moment. They want to have pleasures in this world. They want to soak up the goodness that this physical world has to offer them in every single nook and cranny. Chemda says to you, push off your pleasure for later. Work hard now. It'll be worth it. When you have a stack of money in your bank account, then you'll be able to enjoy life. And the person will drive themselves, they'll become a workaholic, sacrifice now for later enjoyment. Says the Vilna Gaon, that yetzer can't speak to a person who's indulged in lust because it's telling him to give up his world. Are you guys with me? And so there was a starting point. Again, I don't want to get too complicated, you have to revise the shirim, but it seems that a person can't have those two drives as the driving force in their life. You can either have a lust as your driving force or chemdas as your driving force, but they can't really live in the same human being because they're opposite, almost opposites to each other. The one says, I want now, and the other one says, no, let's wait a little bit. And those don't go together. And it could also be the explanation of that Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, because the Mishnah says that if a person exhausts himself in work, that means what's driving your activity is chemda. You're ambitious and trying to make money. That's sacrificing now for later. That quells the lusts in a person because it's a totally different life that you're building. They can't live in the same heart. They can't live in the same neshama, those two drives. And so the Mishnah says, exhaust yourself in work and learning. Those two don't go together with lust. The Vilna Gaon also said that the complete opposite of lusts is torah. It's the antithesis of lust. And I explained, he doesn't explain, I just gave my own explanation to explain to you. But Torah says to a person, put off this entire world for the next. A lustful person can't hear that. You have to give up this, be prepared to give up this entire world. Because the real world's the next one. So that's why the Mishnah says, Kachi darka shel Torah. You know what the derech of Torah is? Pas b'melach toichal, mayim b'mesura tishte, eat bread and salt, just drink water in its measure. Minimal taking of pleasures from this world, because ultimately you want the next one. That's like the total antithesis of taiva and lusts. So the Mishnah is saying, engage yourself in a Torah, engage yourself in a livelihood, and the drive for lusts will dissipate from your life because you're engaging yourself in the complete opposites of what that taiva wants, and it will push it out of your life. Yeah, okay, go for it.
It seems like lust and chemda can live in a person at the same time. So, for example, you could be like working hard during the day, learning during the day, and then, for example, at night it could be different, or when you go on holiday it could be different. So, it just seems hard, that concept.
You're asking when you're like not involved in the moment, but it's of what's interesting to you. What grips your attention and makes you want to invest your energy into. Like where do you want to invest your energy? You can have, it can slip and have things, but it's not like you're not going to spend your life like Googling all the best restaurants in the world and planning your trips and where you're going to go overseas if you're a guy who wants to like build an empire. Like it's just like not so interesting. You may eat at a nice restaurant and enjoy it, but it's not like you're going to build your life around that type of a thing. It's just like a total different life philosophy. I think that's what he's saying. Okay. Now, the problem that I've had really with with this is that we're starting at a point that a person where lusts drive their life, it's born out of, the Rabbi Yonah says, born out of a lazy disposition in a person. And inactivity is the breeding ground for those lusts. And we know from the Rambam that the opposite of inactivity and laziness is chemda, is desire for money, which makes you work really hard. So in order to grow a person out of the state of being lazy, the Rambam says you've got to take him to the other side, and he's got to be a person who becomes a workaholic. That will pull him into the middle. But how do you take a lazy person and tell them, okay, well now you've got to work hard, but they can't. They're stuck. They're stuck in their world of atzlus. So there's no practical way to tell a person, go physically to the other extreme to become a person who's obsessed with making money and wants to be engaged and indulged in a livelihood and work hard, because it's just not going to happen. They're lying in bed. They want to just chill with their cigar in their mouth, their whiskey in the other hand, and their arm around some beautiful lady. That's the dream. Don't tell me now to start working hard. It's like that doesn't go. So how do you actually help this person? How do you actually grow them? So none of this I knew. I'm just sharing you like really just my journey of finding, looking and sourcing, seeing who speaks about the topic. There's a verse in Mishlei. It's in chapter 25, verse 21. And I'm going to share with you the Pasuk and the Vilna Gaon. Amazing thing, the Maharal says exactly the same thing as the Vilna Gaon in the Pasuk. It's the Gemara as well. Just profound. It says as follows. The Pasuk says as this. Im ra'ev sona'acha ha'achilayu. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. Ve'im tzamei, and if he's thirsty, hashkehu mayim, give him water to drink. Okay? So if your enemy is hungry, feed him bread, and if he's thirsty, give him water. So it says as follows. Listen to this. This is the Vilna Gaon I'm sharing with you, right? V'al toima, you shouldn't say, Haloihu soini, v'eich achileyu, v'hu asli ra, he's my enemy. How can I feed him? He's done bad to me. Don't think that. We're taking this pasuk very literally. You've got a person who's out there to destroy you. He says, you know how you get that person onto your side? Feed him if he's hungry. Give him to drink if he's thirsty. Okay? Says the Vilna Gaon, don't say, what the Shlomo Melech is coming to tell you is, don't say, how can I do that? He's done me all this bad. How's that going to work? So the next verse says, Ki gecholim ata choite al roishoi. You're going to be burning coals on his head. V'Hashem yeshalem lach, and Hashem will repay you. What does that mean? So the Gaon says, Ki gecholim ata choite al roisho. You're going to be burning coals on his head. Shenichve roisho. His head's going to get burnt. V'lo yochul lahakim roisho negdecha machmaseh. He's not going to be able to raise his head against you. Maharal says that when you do a kindness for a person who's out there to get you, ultimately they become subservient to you for that kindness, and they won't be able to consistently persist with their negativity towards you. So that's Shlomo Melech's advice. If you have an adversary, somebody's up there against you, do a kindness for them, feed them if they're hungry, give them water when they're thirsty, and ultimately that puts them under your control, and they won't be able to raise their head up against you. Now, that's the simple verse, and the simplicity of the verse stands. But then, this is based on the Gemara. The Gaon says, V'ha'inyan shekai ala yetzer hara shenikra soine. Actually, this verse is talking about a person's yetzer hara, which the Torah calls your enemy. And it's telling you, Im rav sonacha, if your enemy, if your yetzer hara is hungry, feed it bread. And if it's thirsty, feed it water. What does that mean? Unbelievable. He says as follows. If this low life, yetzer hara, comes to you, Shua yetzer hara, and it wants to steer you away from Torah, shaloi tilmad klal, that doesn't want you to learn. Mashchehu lebeis midrash, drag it into the beis midrash, take it to learn Torah. Ki im ha'adam yaschil lilmoid taikef lishma lo yaniach lo, because okay, the person learns totally straight away lishma, it won't let you. Ach yaschil sheloi lishma, you should start learning for ulterior motives, and through the learning for ulterior motives, you'll come to learn for the right reasons. Okay. I think I'll say it outside. It's actually quite hard to do the reading. It's a big piece, but it's the Maharal, the Gaon and the Maharal, they both say in this verse the following thing. The Pasuk's telling a person that if you have lusts which are calling and knocking at your door, the way to address them is learning. Torah. Now that for me, it shocked me. I'll go into the depths of what is explained now. But I nearly fell off my chair. Because I thought of course. That's what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah said, Rad Yafet Talmud Torah im derech eretz yagir shnei meshekachas avin. It's in the Mishnah. But I didn't really quite chap it. And I know there's Chovis Levavos, he says the following thing. Similar, he says that everything gets energy if you indulge in it. And the problem with the Yetzer Hara is for food, for drink, for women is that you have to engage in this Yetzer in order to survive. It's not something you can put aside in your life. So it's always being fed and it's always gaining strength. So how does the neshama gain strength? So he says for that Hashem created a Torah for a person to learn, and Torah gives energy to the neshama, which allows it then to overpower the lusts inside of a person. Because Torah has no physicality to it. It's pure spiritual engagement, which is pure nourishment for the soul and makes the soul grow. These are all theories in the back of my head, but I didn't really put it all together. The Pasuk saying to you, the Vilna Gaon says, this Pasuk's telling you, if that Yetzer Hara, your enemy, is knocking at your door, what you have to do is feed it lechem and mayim. He says the Torah is called bread and the Torah is called water, depending on which part of the Torah you give it. But that's what addresses the Yetzer Hara for lusts and dissipates it from a person's life and pushes it to the right corner in a person's life. It's the engagement in learning which actually strengthens the neshama and weakens those lusts and puts them in the right place. And I thought about it. Actually, the Torah calls, there's a Mishnah in Megillah, it calls people who sit and learn all day batlanim. Right? It means that they don't do anything all day. Now that, of course, they do. They sit and learn, and learning is tremendously demanding intellectually. But physically, you don't move off your chair. And I thought it's actually quite unbelievable, because how do you take a lazy person and move them into tremendous activity that they can actually start to become productive in the world that will pull them out of their laziness? To tell them to go and work hard, that's an impossibility. But to tell them, look, you can sit on your chair, you don't have to move from your chair, you just put your earpods in your ear and let the rabbi teach you. He did all the hard work for you. He'll just start to teach you pieces of the Torah, and he's going to share with you Mesilas Yesharim and Chovis Levavos and Pirkei Avos, and your world will change. But it's the Torah that's going to be able to reprogram the mind and the lusts of the person who's stuck in a lazy space. I don't know. For me, that was just profound. And the Vilna Gaon said to us last week, he said that Torah is the opposite of laziness, the total opposite. So how do you take a person and grow them out of laziness? We know the principle. The Rambam says you've got to take them to the opposite extreme, but it's not hard work. That's impossible. Eventually they'll get there. But the first step can't be there. So how do you take them to the opposite extreme, dealing with the fact that they can't move? Put them in a chair in the beis midrash, or earphones in their ear, or in front of a YouTube channel where there's a rabbi giving them a shir. And that will take them to a life philosophy which is totally different to theirs, the total opposite of theirs. And with time, it will be able to reshape the person, that lusts are no longer the center of their life, that delayed gratification becomes the modus operandi of their life, that they can actually start to have ambitions to work a little bit and push off their short-term lusts, and ultimately work a lot and earn a next world, even push off their lusts entirely in this world. This is just, for me, that was like gold. That was like, it was worth the whole journey just for me, just to get to this point. He has a few details if you want to look it up yourself. Just amazing which parts are bread and which parts are water and which yetzer each one works for. But the general principle is that Torah and most specifically, Agada and Musa, those components of Torah, which he calls, those are the mime, those are ones which drag a person out of their lusts. I was speaking to a person this week, a friend of mine, from Ga, they didn't grow up from, and he said, he described his life as a teenager to me, and he said, I'm just telling you, if it wasn't for Torah, I would never have been able to get out of those things. I could never have got out of them. The Torah gave me a framework that I was able to take what was a lust-driven life and give it space and context that it could actually still exist, but not destroy my world. And Gary asked me at the end of the share last week, if these lusts are so bad, let's say, that the Vilna Gaon says they're going to be out. They can't be at the center of your life. So why doesn't the Torah cut them out? It says on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you must have bread, you must have meat and wine. There's a mitzvah to be with your wife. Every year you have times when you have to drink. Pesach Seder, every Kiddush is on wine. It's a strange thing. This thing which is so taboo. And yet there's times in the Torah's year where you're in days, weeks, you're encouraged to engage in these things. Mitzvah to engage in these things. How does it work? So I didn't see this anywhere, but my own thought is that you see that a secular world, when it sees something which is non-productive and not good, the only way it has to deal with it is to cut. So that's why you have priests and nuns. The ultimate place to go is where you have no engagement in certain physical activities and certain lusts because they're negative. But Hashem knew that just can't work. First of all, you need to eat to survive. He wants you to be with your wife so you can have children. So that they have there is positivity in these things. They're not all negative. If they're at the center of your life, they're negative. But they have a real role to play in a person's life. What Torah does is it makes you in control of the lusts. How does it do that? Hashem says, I'll tell you what, you can have the lusts. Not only, I want to give you instructions, you must have them. But only at certain times of the month. And only on certain days of the week you're allowed to eat those things. And only certain days you must get drunk. And on others it's asur. Totally forbidden. And then the lust doesn't control your life. You control the lust. It gets its place in the right proportion in your life. But you're on top of it. The Gaon has the most unbelievable diuk in this verse that we're learning. And I really want to end with this because it's really a summary of everything that we've done. It's the most profound thing. It says, Im ra'ev sonacha hachileyu lachim. If you read the verse properly, it says, if your enemy, which now he says means the Yetzer Hara, is hungry, feed him bread. How do you feed the Yetzer Hara Torah? It has no interest in Torah. It's a physical interest. Are you guys with me? But it says, feed him Torah. If he's thirsty, give him water to drink. So the Vilna Gaon says, this is the fundamental principle of Torah. That's what the Gemara says, Mashcheihu lebeis midrash. You have to bring him into the beis midrash. How do you bring the Yetzer Hara into the beis midrash? So he says that's the fundamental principle of our Torah called Shelo Lishma. You have ulterior motives for learning. And those ulterior motives are interesting for the Yetzer Hara. And you use those very interesting ulterior motives to draw the Yetzer Hara into the beis midrash with you. It could be money. It could be honor. It could be competition. These things, the Yetzer Hara's got an interest in those things. So he says, don't leave the Yetzer Hara behind. That's what the Pasuk's telling you. Don't start with Lishma. Don't come in here and say, I'm a lazy guy, I'm very lustful, I've got to learn. But I mean, that's like poison for you. It's poison. You'll never last on that. Bring the Yetzer with you. The learning, you need it. And you know why you're going to the beis midrash. You're going to the beis midrash because you want to quieten down these lusts. But you've got to bring the Yetzer with you. You've got to feed that drive bread. You've got to feed it Torah. You have to understand what other things is it interested in that would get me to learn. My ultimate is to get to learn, but I've got to bring the Yetzer Hara with me to learning. So if it's money, if it's honor, competition, whatever the kosher drives are that we're allowed to attach to our pure drive to learn, use that and bring the Yetzer with you into the beis midrash. And he says the most unbelievable thing. So he says, because that's the way it works. You bring the Yetzer with you to the beis midrash, and you'll be happy to come. And then you'll wholeheartedly be sitting in your chair and learning consistently. And without realizing it, you are pushing those lusts aside. You're transforming them into chemdas, which are more permitted and more allowed and permissible drives to keep a person energized. And eventually that dissipates as well. And you're left with this pure love and desire to learn God's Torah. And the Vilna Gaon says, why that happens, explains the process, and this needs a lot of learning on my own behalf to explain, but there's one thing that he said that just like, whoa, it shocked me. He says as follows, the reason why Shemitoch Shelo Lishma Ba Lishma happens in this case is, Mikol Shekain it's going to work, Shekavanoscha L'Shem Shamayim, because your intention is L'Shem Shamayim. Now I thought, you just told me that I must go learn, but I can't learn lishma in a pure way because that's not going to work. You've got these lusts that are driving your life. You've got to bring the Yetzer into the beis midrash. How do you bring the Yetzer into the beis midrash? You use ulterior motives. But how can you say that the reason why the ulterior motives are going to go away is because your intention is l'shem shamayim? What does that mean? That's like the biggest contradictions of them all. Are you guys, do you appreciate the contradiction? It's mad. The Vilna says, no, of course, what was your main motivation here was, I've got lusts. I don't want them to be the center of my life. And I know that Torah is going to quieten them. But I can't get to the beis midrash. I'm a lazy oak. Lust at the center of my life. I'm never going to get there, but I know that's what I need. So says the Vilna Gaon, so attach shelo lishmas to it. But you are l'shem shamayim. He says that's l'shem shamayim. You're utilizing your whole being in order to give you a long-term shot at being a real servant of God. The fact that at this moment, the reason why you're learning is for an ulterior motive is totally irrelevant. You attach that ulterior motive to your very pure motive. And because at the core of you, you have a pure motive that you want Torah to transform you, you want it to connect you to God, those ulterior motives will dissipate eventually. And the way the Maharal explains it, he says, it's just what the basic verse says. Just like you have an enemy that's up against you, and you start giving it all the things that he wants, and he eventually becomes subservient to you, that's exactly what happens with the Yetzer Hara. You have a Yetzer Hara who's out there to destroy you. It's out there to ruin your life. And then through Torah, you give it what it wanted. It wanted honor. It wanted money. It wanted to be the best. It wanted recognition and all the things. Actually, wow, it found all the things it wanted in you fed it in your world. Then it quietens down, becomes subservient to you, become on top of the Yetzer, and ultimately the Gaon says that dissipates and quiets because it's not interested in learning actually the Yetzer and just goes to bed, and you're left with what started as your pure motivations without enough energy to fight the battle against your lusts, that you're able to actually let that come to the fore. Anyway, I thought it was just incredible. A great synopsis for the Gaon of everything that we've learned together. That basically a person has very pure l'shem shamayim motivations. We want to connect to Hashem. We want to do His mitzvahs. We want to do what's right in this world. We want to earn the world to come. But there's drives inside of us which pull us away. The Gaon says the only way for a person to consistently remain committed to Torah mitzvahs is if you bring those drives, attach them to your very pure motivation. Take the tov inside of you and make it great by attaching the shelo lishmas. And with time, what happens is those ulterior motives fall to the background, and what grows and develops and forms is this unbelievable pure servant of Hashem. Please God, we should all grow from good to become great servants of Hashem. utilizing and acknowledging that there's other drives inside of me, and I need to bring them with me to the base of midrash. I need to bring them with me and entice them to come with me on the journey of mitzvahs. I can't cut them and leave them behind. That battle they'll win. But if I can bring them with, what can be built from that is an incredible, incredible servant of Hashem.
Good.